Hey, I'm Di McQueen, licensed clinical social worker, family and addiction expert. I'm here with Dr. Brian Jackson, my longtime cohort who specializes in the field of addiction. Welcome to Healing Families Shattered by Addiction.
Di and I have worked with addicts, alcoholics, and their families for over 30 years combined. Our podcast and coaching programs focus on families who have a loved one suffering from addiction. Our experience has been that this disease affects families as much, if not more, than the addict or alcoholic.
Is your world spinning out of control? Are you codependent? Are you experiencing worry, loss of sleep, and difficulty concentrating? If so, you're in the right place. Brian and I have both personally lived it, learned it, and now we're going to teach you tools and techniques on how to get your life back that you thought was shattered by addiction.
Okay, let's dive in.
Brian and I are so excited to introduce to you our new sponsor, Lakeview Health. They are a wonderful residential treatment center. Whether it's the family member who is looking for a place or the addict or alcoholic themselves, this would be the place that we would refer them to. Brian, you have many years of experience with Lakeview.
Yeah, Lakeview Health is a center of excellent addiction treatment. They take an evidence-based approach, medical approach to treating this complex brain disease. They hold the Joint Commission's Golden Seal, and they were voted one of America's best treatment centers by Newsweek magazine. They deliver dual diagnosis, gender-responsive, and trauma-informed care at their gorgeous facility here in Jacksonville, Florida. But they do see people from all over the world do come here to Jacksonville to go to treatment at Lakeview. Their levels of care include medically supervised detox, which a lot of people do need. Then they stabilize them in a residential rehabilitation and partial hospitalization program. They have board-certified physicians, master-level therapists, and they work to address the unique needs of each patient. So in other words, it's not a cookie-cutter program. They help individuals build skills for long-term sobriety. So if you or someone you know needs treatment, please visit their site at lakeviewhealth.com. We also have a hyperlink on our website at familyandaddictionexperts.com where you can just click and get some information about Lakeview Health. And Di, I think you have a number for people to call if they would like to inquire about treatment.
I sure do. That number is 888-480-3799. That's 888-480-3799. Give them a call.
Hi, everybody. This is Dr. Jackson. Welcome to Healing Families Shattered by Addiction. I am excited because we have a special guest this morning. Her name is Amber Hollingsworth, and the name of her company is Hope for Amber, help me out with that. Hope for Families?
Hope for Families Recovery Center. That's right.
Yes. And so I've been, I tease her. I've been stalking her on her YouTube and Facebook Live videos with the name of her show is Put the Shovel Down. And we had talked, and Amber agreed to come on to our podcast. And she had a wonderful topic. I've been working with counselors for years and just following Amber. I just love the way she breaks things down and makes it as simple as possible for all of us to understand about addiction and about how it affects not only the person that has a substance use disorder, but the family as well. And the topic that Amber suggested was the invisible intervention. So I am totally intrigued. I know nothing about what the steps are. So Amber, I'll turn it over to you. Welcome. It's great to see you.
Thanks, Brian. Glad to be here. I'll tell you what, we started our YouTube channel because there's a lot of help out there for people that have an addiction, but there's no help out there for their family. And the family's the one looking for the help. They're the one begging, pleading, looking, and there's nothing out there other than go to an Al-Anon meeting, which is somewhat helpful, but can be almost a little insulting at first when you hear that as a family member. It's I'm not the one with the problem, And so, I think families get told there's nothing you can do. You have to wait till they hit bottom. They have to want it for themselves. And in my experience, that's not really true. And so I've worked with addicts and alcoholics for 20 years now. And my goal is to share everything I've learned about how they think, what motivates them with the family members so that they can actually intervene. And we came up with this process called the invisible intervention. And it uses a lot of what's called the craft method, which you can learn about and read about. And the craft method is actually researched, highly researched, is statistically proven to be the most effective method of intervention. So it's part of that, and then some other things. And so what I'd like to do is give your listeners like the 6 basic steps to pulling this off, because it's sort of like you're intervening with your loved one, but they don't even know it. That's why it's called the invisible intervention.
I love it because interventions, people have a preconception that it's a sneak attack, where the whole family comes in and just attacks the person, which is usually not very well received by the person with the substance use disorder. So anxious to hear what those steps are, and I'm sure our listeners are as well, family members.
All right. Well, step 1 is probably, of all the steps, it is the most critical. And if you don't get any other step, get this one. And I call this step, get out of the bad guy role. Because what naturally happens to families is, your loved one are like ruining their lives and yours. And it's natural to want to like jump in there and make them stop or reason with them. But as you're doing that, you're getting yourself in the bad guy role. And what happens is the person gets so like involved in just power struggling with you and being defensive that you're actually blocking them from seeing what their problem is. Like you're keeping them in denial by trying to force them to see it. Because every time you say, you're alcoholic or you're a drug addict or you got a problem or you need to get help, their brain immediately thinks of why you're wrong and why you don't understand them and you don't get it. And you don't want their brain to think that, because you want ways so they can see what the issue is. In my mind, I kind of see it like your loved one is walking towards this cliff, and at the bottom of this cliff, there's like all these crazy spikes, and you're standing in front of them, yelling and screaming and waving your arms and saying, don't go, don't go, don't go. But you're just annoying them, and they're just aggravating you, and they're just trying to make you get out of the way. And if you just get out of the way, they could probably see there's some spikes down there. And so getting out of the bad guy role is literally the most important thing you can do. And that means you want to align with them, which kind of leads us to step number 2, which is build credibility. Once you're not seen as the bad guy anymore, the second thing is you want to I call it build credibility because it's kind of like building your credit score. Like, let's say you want to buy a house and you build your credit score up. You got to have a high enough credit score for the bank to trust you to give you a loan. Well, you have to have enough credibility with your loved one for them to listen to you and care what you think. Because when you're in the bad guy role, you're yelling, you're screaming, you're begging, you're pleading, you're ultimatuming, you're spying, you're doing all the things. And first of all, they think you don't get it. And second of all, they don't like you. And they're sure in the heck not going to listen to anything you got to say because they don't even like you. And they don't think you get them. And no one's ever going to listen to you unless they think like you understand them and like you really get their situation, like the details of it, and that you're on their side. But mostly they just want to know you get where they're coming from. It's not until then that you have any credibility. If you don't have that, you have like a 0 credit score. You have like a negative credit score. I don't even know. It's like they're not only are they not going to listen to you, but they're just going to do the opposite of what you say because they're mad at you. So, excuse me, I have a cold. Let me get a drink.
That's okay. Take a swig. Drink some water.
Hopefully you can cut that part out. So once you build this credibility, you're not in the bad guy role. They'll start talking to you more about it. They will occasionally say, you know what, I probably should cut it back. I probably should do something about it. Maybe this, is causing problems. We call that change talk. So you're going to listen for these little pieces of change talk. And while you're building that credibility, you're listening for this change talk. The third step is you're allowing the natural consequences. So what does that mean? Not punishment, not consequences from you. Those don't count. Those are not natural consequences. When punishment comes from you, they never see that it's the addiction. They just see that you're a pain in the butt, and that you're ruining their life. And so the consequences have to come outside of you. So you want to step out of the way. What most families want to do is they want to fix all the problems. They want to make sure you get your class done. They want to make sure that you don't lose your job, make sure you don't have insurance, but they want to yell at you and nag you and be mean to you inside the house. I want you to do the opposite. I want you to let all the bad stuff happen, and I want you to be the nice guy inside the house, because now you're getting to the formula that creates change. Like, it really, not only does it expedite the process of someone wanting to get better, but when they do get better and they do ask for help, it sticks because they're ready for it. And they're like, it's I call it like planting seed. You got to like till the ground. You can't just throw the seed on the ground. You got to till it and put some fertilizer and some water. You got to make it right. And that's what you're doing in this process. So as those consequences are happening, they're going to start confiding in you. They're going to start like opening up about it just a little bit, not a lot. And when they do, you're going to be super calm, super chill. When they finally do, you're so excited. I'm like this as counselor. I'm like, yes. And that's when I like jump on it. But you got to play it cool. Otherwise you like scare them away. They're like, oh, like, so they say that. And you say, if they say like, man, I should cut this drinking back. And you could say something like, well, what makes you think that? Just ask some questions and be inquisitive. And that will allow you to do step 4, which is find what motivates them, because that is the only thing that counts. It doesn't matter why you think they need to change. Almost everybody I've ever worked with, they have some motivation to change. Now, their reasons might be different than your reasons, but their reasons. Like, sometimes it's like, well, I should probably quit drinking because I'm gaining all this weight. And you might be thinking, well, that's the least of the problems. You might be thinking, well, what about this and that and the DUIs and everything else? Don't matter. Go with what motivates them, and then pay attention to that, validate that, ask more questions about that. You're growing their motivation when you do that, like pulling a string on a sweater. You don't want to like tell them anything. You just want to ask questions and pull it out of them. Now, behind the scenes, so you got those steps going on, and behind the scenes, what I want you to be doing is I want you to be looking for some helpful options for your loved one. And I want you to look for different kinds of options. And I'll tell you why in just a minute, but, find a inpatient option, find an outpatient counselor, find a support group, and find a couple of each. And then I just want you to, like, it's almost like, and you can even literally do this, like have them on a note card in your back pocket, because eventually they're going to have what I call a moment of clarity. Everybody has addiction, has these. They usually have a bunch of them. Like, your loved ones probably told you before, like, okay, I'm going to quit, right? Because something bad happened, and then they say, I'm going to quit or I'm going to change. That was one of those moments. These moments happen usually after something kind of crummy happens. And they'll say, I don't want to do this anymore. The issue is that window, it only lasts somewhere between like 5 minutes and 2 days max. Because what happens from when they have that moment and that thought is they either successfully don't use for 2 days and then they think, I got this, or they do use and then they're back off to the races. So you got to act quick. You got to make moves when this window opens, which is why you need to be doing the research behind the scenes, because putting together these options can take weeks. Even for me, and I understand the system, it's like the hardest thing I do is find like a treatment option for someone. It's a pain in the butt. You got to make 100 calls. You got to find out, do they take insurance? Do you have a bed? How long is the waiting list? What method do you use? You want to have all that done. You do not want to wait till your loved one says that and then be scrambling. And if you're doing these other steps I told you, they're going to say it. You're going to have one of these moments, and you got to be ready for it. So once you see that window open, very casually, keep it cool, remember, very casually, you say, well, I heard about this thing over here. It might be kind of good. Do you want me to call and see about it? And you just throw out some, maybe this will be helpful. What do you think? Not, you got to go to treatment or get in the car. You just want to sort of throw it out. And then if they say, yeah, that sounds kind of cool, you say, you want me to call up there and see, if they have an opening or if they have options? Reason you want to say you want me to do it is because a lot of counselors and people in recovery will tell you they got to do it themselves, blah, blah, blah. That's bad advice. The reason that's bad advice is because they're not functional enough to make 100 phone calls, check the insurance, ask the questions without backing out of it. Like they just can't pull it off. It's like the nature of addiction. So I want you to do it for them. Now, sometimes if you're calling a treatment center, they'll say, well, we want to talk to the person, and that's fine. But you want to do all the nitty gritty pain in the butt process part of it. Find out about the money and the insurance and the weight and all that junk. You're clearing the path for them to make it smooth and easy. And then you want to make moves as fast as possible because your window is going to close. I say it's like, don't pass go, don't collect $200, go straight there. If you're picking your loved one up from jail and they're saying, I'm going, you don't bring them home, you don't let them pet their clothes. You say, I'll be right there. And if you think they're going to fight and be nice to you, then you send Uncle John or whoever that they won't fight with, and you put them in the car and you pack their stuff. And if you forgot something, say, don't worry, I'll stop at the Walmart. I will get your toothbrush. We'll get you some clean underwear, whatever. You go. Don't say, can I say goodbye to my loved ones? I want to call my boyfriend, my friend. Don't do that because you're going to lose them. So that is a really fast version of what I call the invisible intervention.
Oh, Amber, I love it. I mean, it's just, it's subtle and, takes away so much of that sparring and the reacting, especially, when you talked about parts 1 and 2, I just see that so many times, with families and, that thought that they have to hit rock bottom. And I would imagine that, put the shovel down means you stop digging, right?
Right.
So, once you stop digging,
you put your shovel down. That's right.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's where your bottom is, but I absolutely love that approach, and I'm sure in the past you may or may not have done interventions. I've done them, but I always like to approach it from a casual, not put the person feeling like they're a bad person, and that it's this bad person trying to become a good person when they do have this illness, in your step 2, when you align yourself with that person, it's almost, I understand where you are and that you're meeting them where they are and willing to have a dialogue to the extent that they want to have a dialogue when they want to have a dialogue. And that is just a great advice, awesome advice. And I think I will use it quite a bit. Yeah. So thank you.
I think it's sort of naturally what counselors do. It's really the process that counselors do. I'm just teaching the family members how to do it because you probably can't even get them to come talk to a counselor. So you might be the only one. You're the front line. Plus, even if you can get them to come talk to a counselor, it's like 1 hour a week maximum. And I got to tell you, I've been dealing with addicts and alcoholics for like 20 years. They don't come consistently, So if you think 1 hour a week every week, that's being real optimistic. So if I can teach you to do what I would do, you can expedite this process infinitely. And so it just opens their mind up to being there.
Yeah, another great point. 1 hour a week is not going to get it done. And, the family members are living with them 24/7. They know all their idiosyncrasies and what's going on. They know the buttons that, the addict or alcoholic is trying to push and push buttons. And it's just, like spinning around and around and around and not getting anywhere. But this, what you're suggesting, it is taking action without being so reactionary about everything. Right. And that's what I love about what you're saying. So that's fantastic. So
it's about being strategic. You beat this thing. It's like a chess game by being strategic. You don't need to argue about what's happening right now. You got to think about what's happening tomorrow and next week and next month. And you got to be down the road waiting for it. And that's how you beat this thing. And the one good thing is addiction is very predictable. Like most people can call me up. They can tell me what their loved one's doing today. I say, I can tell you what they're going to say to you tomorrow. And I can tell you for sure what's going to happen next week. Like you can count on it. And I'm sure you can do this too, Brian.
Oh yeah. Like you said, I've been doing this for a couple of decades too. And it's just amazing, And the excuses, that's the book I wanted to write, the excuses why I can't make it to treatment or make it to counseling or,
Right.
make it to wherever. But like you said, though, the hope is there, that moment of clarity that you talked about, that, intellectually, I think people know that there's an issue. Their parents are saying it to them, the husband is saying it to them, the wife is saying it to them, and intellectually they know it and they're scared. And, until they make that connection between, what's going on in their head, that they know there's a problem in their heart, you've got to capture that moment, is what you just said, capture that moment when they say, wait a minute, like maybe after 2 days of drinking, hey, I could do this and they can't. Or maybe after a 2-day binge or a DUI or something obvious consequence, hey, I have this, they have this willingness all of a sudden.
Yep.
And, it may not be on Tuesday at 1:00 when they come to see you or me that, mom and dad and, spouse has to be there and say, okay, and you've already checked the place out.
It feels like it takes forever, but then it feels like it comes fast. Like, it's
right. Yeah.
On and on. And you think, oh my gosh. And then one day it's right there and you're like, holy crap. It's like
all of a sudden the domino falls.
Yeah. Exactly. You got to be ready.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming on. Can you please tell people how they can contact you? I know you're in South Carolina, but you're not just in South Carolina, that you're virtually seeing people everywhere. Yeah. I'm here in Florida, and here we are talking. So that's wonderful. So tell me.
The best place to find me is on YouTube, on my channel called Put the Shovel Down. We talk about this issue and lots more. So you can get a ton of education, a ton of information. And there are videos on the channel, I'd say probably like 60 or 70% of the videos are for the family member, but probably the other 30% is for the person who has an addiction. And if you're the family member, one of the things I teach you is how and when to send them one of my videos. Don't just send them a video and say, watch this video. There's a strategy to it. And so we talk you through that whole process of how to make it work. And not only does it work for your addicted loved one, but you'll feel better as a person because you've been acting like crazy person, and that's not you, and you don't like that either. So it kind of brings you back to yourself too.
Okay, well, thank you so much again. When I asked Amber to come on, she's like, I love getting the message out about addiction and recovery and help for the family. So that speaks volumes to who you are as a person and as a counselor and caring about people. And we certainly feel like that's our approach. Take care of the family, take care of the person that's suffering, and that's the most important part. But you can get a hold of us. You can go to our website at familyandaddictions.com, where you can send us a question either about the podcast or any questions you might have at info@familyandaddictionexperts.com. This has been wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much, Amber, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Brian.
Okay.
Thanks so much for joining our podcast, Healing Families Shattered by Addiction. We'll be back in a couple of weeks with more important tools, techniques, and ways for you to focus on you instead of the alcoholic or addict in your world.
Until then, please go to our website, familyandaddictionexperts.com. That's familyandaddictionexperts.com. You'll also see links to our Facebook and Instagram pages. Please also, if you have any emails that you would like to send us, that's info@familyandaddictionexperts.com. That's info@familyandaddictionexperts.com. With any thoughts, feelings, questions that you may have for us, we would love to hear from you, and we look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks.